All right. Hello, my name is Paulina, and I am one of the peer career advisors at the Career Development Center. And today we are going to be doing a PowerPoint and a little presentation about how to write a great cover letter. So let me share my screen and we will get right into it. All right. Okay. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about how to write a great cover letter, and we will get right into it. So, why do you need a cover letter? So, a cover letter is going to serve as an introduction that guides an employer through your resume. So, ideally, if we do it correctly, your cover letter is going to be the little intro and it's going to make the employer want to read your resume even more. So, it will help them and encourage them, hopefully, to take a further look. It will highlight the specific skills and traits for a job that you have a little more in depth than you are going to do in your resume. It's going to point to your related experience and kind of specifically how the skills that you've gained in your related experience in related fields relate directly into the job that you are going to want to apply for. Explains how you're going to perform on the job. Those skills, again, we want to make sure, and your employer is going to want to see that they're transferable into their position. And then finally, of course, when somebody asks for your resume, you should always include a cover letter as well. Some applications do tend to tell you that their resume is mandatory, but their cover letter is optional. You should always include a cover letter anyways. It's just good practice to get into. So in terms of formatting, we want to make sure your margins are set at 1 inch. That should be just the regular set margins for any Microsoft Word document that you open. So it should just kind of be already set for you. In terms of font, just make sure that it's professional, nothing very crazy, and single space, no double space. Just basically how Word's going to format it for you is just how you should keep it. And then no indentations, just make sure everything is flush to the left in your paragraphs. You don't need to be doing any additional indentations whatsoever. And mailed copies should be on regular, basically printer paper, 8.5 by 11, on white or neutral paper, nothing super long or very little short pieces of paper. So that is what we want for formatting. In terms of font as well, just keep it to a nice font that can be seen, and 12-point font is a good kind of sizing to go by. I would not go any smaller than 10. Your employer's going to have a bit of a difficult time reading that. So, if you didn't know, there are 3 types of cover letters, and one of them is a lot more prominent and you're going to see it a lot more often than the others. Probably is kind of maybe what you're going to base your cover letter off of, but it's good to know the 3 different types and kind of just be familiar with them anyways. So the first type is the paragraph cover letter, which is, like I said, the most common type that you're going to see, probably the one that you're going to format your cover letter off of. It's just kind of flows like a little bit of a story, and it's very easy to set up, especially once you get the hang of it. The shopping list cover letter, I'd probably say, is the next most common one. And I will show you when we go through the examples kind of where we see those different changes, maybe, between the paragraph one and the shopping list one. I'll point out where exactly what makes them different. And then finally, the prospecting cover letter, which is probably the one that's most rare. We don't see a lot of people doing the prospecting cover letter, but definitely by all means, if that's something that you want to go for, then it's there for you, and we're going to go through that as well. So the paragraph cover letter, you can remember it by the giant smiley face and remind you that this is the one that you're probably going to see the most. So in this section, we're just going to go through all of the sections that make up the paragraph cover letter, and then at the end, I will show you an example, and you can kind of just put the information, to a picture and how it would actually look in an actual cover letter. So you're going to always start with the date and the contact information of the employer. If you have the contact information of the employer, that's awesome. We definitely want to include it on there, and that includes their name, with their title. So if it's, say we're talking about President Kaplan, then we would want to, his contact information would be President Stephen Kaplan, and then we would go into the address, so 300 Boston Post Road, West Haven, Connecticut. You'd put in University of New Haven in there too. So just you would just do the address like you would if you were mailing a letter out. We just want to make sure that the title of the person is in there and it's professional, and we have the name of the company as well as the person's name. So then we're going to go down into your greeting, which is just a simple dear Miss, Mrs., or Mr., and then the person's name. So again, if we were applying to the university, we might say dear Mr. Kaplan, or if you have the person's job title, then you would definitely want to include that, dear President Kaplan. We could do it that way. Or say maybe you don't have the person's name, and that's totally fine. Sometimes they're not going to give it to you. So dear hiring manager or dear hiring committee is completely fine. So moving right along, we're going to go into our first paragraph, which is our opening paragraph. So your opening paragraph, I like to tell people, is 1 to 3 sentences, just kind of giving them a brief overlook about yourself, of you. So that's going to include what do you want and what are you applying for. Give a brief introduction to yourself. So that would include telling them, your major, what you're studying, any minors, concentrations, just kind of your education. Make sure you include, I'm a junior studying whatever at the University of New Haven. Make sure you put your institution in there, go into your major and things like that. So that's what I mean by a brief introduction. So then once you do that, you're going to tell the employer how you heard about the position, if that is applicable to you. So in parentheses, I have written use contact's name. This is a great section right in the beginning if you do have a contact that gave you the company's information, maybe it's somebody who still works at the company, or maybe it was somebody who used to work at the company and that they have a really good reputation with the company, they still keep in contact, whatever the case may be. Telling the employer and dropping that contact's name into your first paragraph is probably going to make them want to keep reading, especially if this person has a really great reputation in their company. They'll be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I know this person, and they would not send us somebody who is not, worthy of this position or is probably going to do a great job. So I'm going to keep reading. That's kind of a great thing to have in there if that is applicable to you. And it doesn't have to be a specific person that works at the company. It could be maybe one of your professors gave you the contact, and the professor's a great, reference with the company, things like that. So that's going to be your brief introduction in your opener. When it says, what do you want and what are you applying for? It's just a simple one-liner. You can say something like, I am writing to you to apply for the internship position at XYZ company. And there you have it. Okay, so once you get into paragraph 1 and you finish that, you're going to go into paragraphs 2 and 3. So 2 and 3 are going to be your personal skills and competencies for the job. So some tips about this is you're going to want to review the job description before starting this section, because you want to know exactly what this employer is looking for. And that will help you be able to tailor the cover letter like we mentioned. We want to make sure that it's talking about specific skills and traits that you have that your employer wants. So you're going to find this in the job description. You're going to include abilities and knowledge that you possess that's specific to the job. Highlight your qualifications using words, again, directly from that job description. So that way that's what your employer is looking for. And basically, just to kind of put it in one little brief explanation, this is the paragraph where you are going to talk about your experience and how the skills from your experience are relevant to the job. So maybe you're a criminal justice major. and you did an internship at a police station over this past spring. So you did your internship, you had a great experience with your internship. This is the place that you're going to talk about that. So you might start this paragraph with something like, during the spring semester, I was able to intern at New Haven Police Department. While at New Haven Police Department, serving as an intern, I gained valuable communication skills. And then you're going to give me an example of how exactly you use those communication skills. So maybe you're going to tell me that you helped out in dispatch, and that helped you to learn how to communicate effectively and quickly in a very high pace and high stress environment. Great, there you have it. You told me where you were, what skill you gained, and exactly how you an example of exactly how you used that skill. That's kind of how you're going to format these two paragraphs. At the very end here, it says focus on high sought after competencies. So you have probably seen these around school, or definitely if you've been to the Career Development Center, you've definitely seen them there. It's those competencies that we have, and they are critical thinking, flexibility, problem solving, interpersonal communication, and resilience. They're kind of formatted in this circle, they're little bubbles. Those are the qualities and the competencies that employers are looking for in candidates year after year. So if you can include competencies like this from what you've learned in your experience and tell me how you applied them, those are great skills to put into those paragraphs. So 1 is your opening, 2 is your skills. Okay, so 2 and 3 are going to be your skills. Paragraph 4 is additional information. So you can use this paragraph. It's kind of like a buffer if you need a little bit more space. This is where you would include any additional or requested or desired information that your employer may want to know. Sometimes this is specifically asked for in the job description. Things like start dates, when can you start? Tell me, they're asking exactly when you can start, how many hours you're available, willingness to travel, things like that. So in this paragraph is not always required, but if you need it, it's there for you. And then finally, it's the closing. So what I can tell you is that the closing is basically is the same for every single cover letter, and unless you choose to change it. I generally tell students that the closing is pretty much the same, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in the examples, but your closing is just very simple, very basic, 2 to 3 sentences. You're thanking your employer for their consideration and requesting an interview to discuss your qualifications further. So thank you so much for your time and your consideration. I really appreciate you, taking the time to look over my resume. If you have any other questions, please contact me you put your name in there, you put your email in there, so that we can further discuss my qualifications. And then that's it. Like you mentioned, just make sure you repeat your contact information. It sounds repetitive, but it's just so they have it for sure in there again. And then the last part is just sincerely, and your name. So if you're physically handing the letter to someone, of course, you would sign in that space between sincerely, and then you would sign, and then your name would be in print typed underneath. If not, sincerely in your name is completely fine. Okay, so here we're going to just kind of go through everything that we chatted about, right? So here is the contact information of the employer and the date. See Mr. John Sylvester, XYZ company, and then the address. So this is just how that's formatted, just like it would be if you were sending or mailing a letter out. Then here we have your opening. Here's your greeting, dear Mr. Doe. And you would then go right into paragraph 1, which is your opening. So here is their reason for why they are applying. I'm inquiring about the accounting and finance internship position with XYZ company. Perfect. That's why they're writing, and that's where they're applying for. Here's their little blurb about themselves. I'm currently a junior at the University of New Haven pursuing a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting with a minor in economics. Boom, done. And then they're going to drop the contact in there because it looks like this person has one. I was referred by Peter Anthony, who works at XYZ company. There we go. You have your contact. The guy still works there, so they're kind of making that connection. And then if you do want to, you can include a sentence like this at the end. I find interest in working with this company and can apply my accounting knowledge and skills to benefit the organization. If you feel like you want to include a little sentence like that in there, then by all means, you can definitely do that. If not, leaving it at, I was referred to by Peter Anthony, who works at XYZ company, and just ending the paragraph there is totally fine as well. Okay, so here are paragraphs 2 and 3, your personal skills and competencies. So here is where they're going to include their skills. So the person says, I have extensive technical skills and time management skills. There are their skills. My work experience of being a manager at Craft and Supplies, there's the place that they gained those skills. Helped me hone my technical skills with Microsoft Office using programs such as Excel and Word, and allowed me to learn Master QuickBooks. There's an exact example of how they applied those technical skills. So remember just how I mentioned where it was you gained the skills, what skills, and an example of how you applied those skills. That person did it perfectly. So then they're going to probably go into other skills that they gained in that position or other positions. This person only has one paragraph here talking about their skills. That's totally fine. That's still their second paragraph. If they wanted to include another paragraph talking about skills specifically, they could do that, but they didn't choose to. So they went right into their additional information, which they kind of chose to use as their paragraph 3. In addition, I have learned many non-technical skills, and then they go into some more information about that. So those are your 2 and 3 paragraphs, and then your closing, like I mentioned, is going to be the same for every single one. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to meeting with you personally to further discuss the position and my qualifications. Please contact me at their phone number, or I would include the email to schedule an interview. So include both the phone number and the email. There's your closing. And then finally, sincerely, and then their name, Jane Doe. So now you can kind of see how that's formatted. I know it may look a little daunting, but I promise as soon as you get started, it's much easier to run through the motions and you kind of know how to format everything. So let's look at another one. This cover letter is called the shopping list cover letter, like we mentioned. So now we can kind of go through things a little bit quicker because everything is the same except for basically the middle paragraphs that go into the next cover letters. So just like the paragraph cover letter, the date and contact information of your employer, your opening, giving that brief blurb about yourself like we did in the last one. So here is where things get different. In the shopping list cover letter, your middle paragraphs, paragraphs 2 and 3, which would be in the other cover letter, this is where they're going to change. So instead of a paragraph, you're going to list out what the employer is looking for and respond with your own matching qualifications, like grocery list. So usually people tend to pick bullets that include experience, qualifications, and abilities that are related to the job. And you see just how they're listed here with kind of like in a bullet form and then with a little colon. So the person would list experience, and then they would go into talking about what experience they have right after they've done this. Same thing with qualifications. They would just start talking about their qualifications, and then abilities that are related to the job, they would just start talking about their abilities related to the job. Instead of formatting it like an entire paragraph like they did in the last one, they would just format it this way in 3 sections. So again, additional information is completely the same. If you want to include that paragraph, it's there for you right after that middle paragraph. The closing, same thing like we talked about. It's the same for all of them. It's going to be exactly the same for this one as well. And then sincerely and your name. So let's look at an example. So here We have your opening right here. Dear hiring manager is their greeter. Maybe they don't have an exact name, the contact information and the date. Right here is their opener, and then their opening paragraph, like we said, why are they writing, the little blurb about themselves, they've graduated with their bachelor's of arts, so on and so forth. And for this one, for example, they don't have a contact information, so they just said, I found that the World Affairs Council provides a wide range of projects where I can apply my skills in project management. It's just kind of an assertive statement saying, hey, I have the skills and you should definitely look at my cover letter and then my resume. So here is the place where it changes. Right here, instead of having a paragraph, they're doing like a shopping list of their experience, their qualifications, and their abilities. So this is your shopping list section. This is where things would be different. So you can pause this, take the time to read it, and kind of get a feel for what they are talking about. But ideally, the information is pretty much the same. And then here we go again, the closing statement's the same. I'd be interested in speaking with you further about my qualifications. Please contact me at the phone number, the email to schedule an interview. Thank you, sincerely, and your name. So that's that one. So 2 down, we have 1 more to go. So the prospecting cover letter, like we said, is the one that is the rarest. It's the one that we kind of see least often, but it's not to say that it's not used at all. So it's a letter of interest is what the prospecting letter is. It's sent to a prospective employer who may be hiring, but no specific job opening has been posted. So you're just kind of inquiring, well, maybe, there's no postings, but do you happen to have a position that maybe you haven't posted yet? It's kind of just like getting ahead of the game, if you will. And you're indicating your interest in the company in serving a formal letter of request to consider you for opportunities in the future. So you're just giving them a letter and be like, well, I know you're not opening, but in case something opens, please consider me, as a candidate. So again, everything's the same except for kind of that middle paragraph. And the opening's a little bit different too, I suppose. So the date and the contact information of your employer, your greeting, your opener. So inform the employer of why you're writing. So they're not hiring at the moment, so you want to make sure that you inform them as to why you're writing. You're writing to inquire about a potential opening position that you haven't read about, but you're interested in the company enough that you want to send in your information anyways. So be specific as to why you're interested in the company in the opening a little bit so that they kind of get a feel for, okay, well, we're not hiring, but why is this person writing? That's where you're going to put that in. Then again, your middle paragraph is going to be where it's a little bit different. So in your middle paragraph, your goal is to get noticed by the employer, like we said, even if they're not hiring. Explain your reasons for your interest. Explain why you are writing, even though you haven't seen an opening anywhere. Maybe this is your dream job. Tell me why it is, and identify the skills or experiences that you have. So when I do open, my hiring, I'm going to consider you, and I'm going to think about the letter that you wrote. Explain why you would be an asset to the organization. Why am I going to want to hire you? So that will all go in your middle paragraph. And then your closing, like we said, and sincerely, and your name. So let's look at an example of this as well. So just remember when you are writing this kind of letter, the company has no current openings. You're trying to get your foot in the door anyways, though. You are just trying to get your name out there. So here we have the date and the information of the company. Here we have dear hiring manager. The person must have not had the name, so this is what they chose as their greeting. And you can see that it's a little bit shorter, kind of just at a first glance, but let's kind of go through it a little bit. So They say, here's their intro. I'm an undergraduate student studying computer science, and they're inquiring about an opening, specifically with systems development. They're saying that they're planning to relocate to Boston in the near future, and they're interested in the organization. So they're inquiring about the position. They're also not located in the area where the job is actually located. So this is why it's a prospecting cover letter. They're kind of saying, well, I'm planning to relocate soon, so would you maybe have anything for me? That type of thing. You see how they're kind of just asking if there's, kind of getting their foot in the door, kind of feeling the situation out, even though nothing's currently open and they're not even located at that location. So then going into the other paragraphs, right, your middle paragraph, they're saying what is in store for them, right? They're going to be graduating with their bachelor's. This is all the experience that they have that was going to be relevant to the position that they are inquiring about. That's all that's going to go in there. This is kind of what they did as their closing paragraph, right? They said that their resume is enclosed should they want to look at it. Of course, they're not hiring, so who knows if they will, but maybe this letter will encourage them to do so. That's our goal. And then the same thing, here's like their closing. I'd appreciate the opportunity to discuss the training program with you. And then they do their email and their phone number. Thank them for their consideration, sincerely, and the person's name. So that's the prospecting one. It's a little bit tricky, not very common, but it's there for you should you be considering to do something like that. Okay, so those are the 3 that we went through. Now we're kind of just going to go through a little bit of some common mistakes that you want to avoid, of course, while you are going through writing your cover letter. The most common thing that people do is repeat their resume. Everything that's on their resume, they're like, oh, let's just copy and paste it into the cover letter, which is not what we want to do. So you want to refer to your resume. Of course, they're going to be similar because you're going to be talking about the same skills, but you shouldn't be copying and pasting all of your bullets from your resume right into your cover letter, because then what's the point? Your employer's going to be looking at the same information twice. The idea of the cover letter is to give them more information, because you're not allowed to really write, you shouldn't really write paragraphs in your resume. That's what your cover letter is for. So highlight your specific experiences, but let your resume do the rest of the talking. So you don't have to include every single skill that you have listed in your resume under your bullets. Pick like the most important one, maybe for each thing that you're involved in. Trying to kind of try to pick and choose specific ones that you think are most appropriate. And then avoid rambling. Your cover letter should only be 1 page, right? You shouldn't include every single bullet point in your resume. Your cover letter is going to be 4 pages long, and we don't want that. This one is also very common, using a general letter for all positions. So try to tailor your cover letter to each position. It's very common, and it's very easy to say, well, I'm just going to kind of write a general one and send it out to everybody. People know. I know people are like, well, how are they going to know? They do. When you write a general cover letter, it's obvious, and your employer will be able to see that. So take the time to customize your cover letter and explain how you qualify for a particular position with a particular company or organization. So like we said, look at their the company's job description, what they're looking for, take skills out of that and customize it into those, your paragraph 2 and 3 where you're talking about your skills. Pull skills exactly from what they're asking for in their job description and talk about how you've applied them in your job experiences, internship experiences, and so forth. So the idea is just make sure you tailor it, and where you're going to do the tailoring in those paragraphs 2 and 3 where you're talking about your skills. So just keep that in mind. Want to avoid a general one for everything. And then including negative information. So sometimes it's going to come up. You're not going to have all of the skills that they're looking for, and that's okay. You can never have every single skill that every single person is looking for, and that's fine. They're going to understand that. But don't include negative information about yourself or your employer. That one's a given. You don't want to, smack talk or bad talk anybody in your cover letter. But don't talk negatively about yourself either. Don't tell them about your lack of skills. Tell them about the skills that you do possess. So instead of saying, I don't have experience with Microsoft PowerPoint, but my Word experience is great. Take that first section out. Don't even talk about your PowerPoint experience if maybe it's not as high or you don't have that great of a PowerPoint, navigating through PowerPoint. Talk about how great you are using Microsoft Word if that's, your system of choice. Maybe it's a computer, however it applies to you. It doesn't have to be a computer system, any skill. Highlight on the skills that you are best at. Of course, don't bad talk any former employees or former bosses, because the person's going to be like, okay, well, they're bad talking them here. How are they going to talk about me if they work for my company? Just avoid it. Some more, this one's kind of a given, lying or embellishment. Don't lie or embellish facts. If you don't have certain skills, that's okay, but don't put them in there if you don't have them. So, if you really talk yourself up about being a great public speaker and a great communicator, and then you go in and your employer is asking you to present in front of a big crowd, and you say, well, no, I can't do it. I'm horrible at public speaking. Well, they're going to say, hello, you included it not only in your cover letter, but in your resume too. So, what's going on? Just stay away from that. It will only cause problems, which you don't need. Including personal information, right? This is a professional letter. You don't need to include information about your personal, non-work life, hobbies, things like that. Keep it professional. That one's kind of self-explanatory. And then using a non-professional tone. I feel like a lot of people don't really have trouble with this, but definitely keep it in mind. You're writing a professional letter, so write in a professional manner, not how you would write or speak to a friend. Spell things correctly. Don't use contractions. Try to write things out. Exclude metaphors, cliches, or slang. Just stay away from them altogether. Just keep it very, very professional. And of course, use spell check and self check. I find it very helpful to just read it out loud to yourself. That way you can catch mistakes that you wouldn't be able to catch if you were reading it just in your head. So just check it. It's very important. It does make a really big difference to your employer. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so this is just a rundown, right? Let's just kind of bring everything together that we talked about through this whole presentation. These are the top tips that you want to remember. Have a simple format, right? Nothing cluttered. Keep it organized. Keep it professional, right? You're writing to an employer, not to a friend. So keep it professional, right? Spell check everything. 3, focus on the job description and what your hiring manager is looking for, right? Tailor that cover letter. We do not want a general for everything. So read that job description and pull information right out of it that is going to be helpful for you, and let the employer know you've read it. Be sure that your skills and experience reflect the job or internship that you are applying for. Again, tailor that cover letter. Pull from the job description any skills or specific qualities that they're looking for, and explain how you've shown them through your positions. So that's how you're applying it. And then finally, be honest, right? Don't lie or embellish, like we said. That's only going to cause issues, which we don't want, because we want you to get the job. So just be honest. So these are the 5 things that you want to remember as just a quick rundown of everything. So that is all that I have for you, but we just kind of want to let you guys know resources that you can use. So when in doubt, come to the Career Development Center. We're located in the BSAC. Of course, we're not really there right now, but I will get to that in a second, how you can still reach us. If you already do have a cover letter, this is a great thing to know. You can upload it into Charger Link, which can be found if you go to My Charger, click on Student Resources to the left, and then you'll see a little career development link on the right-hand side once you click Student Resources. And once you click the Career Development Center link, there'll be a huge bar on the side that says Charger Link. You can't miss it. Log in there. It'll have an account set up for you already. And then at the top, you can submit documents for review. That's where you can submit either a cover letter or a resume. Our staff will get it on our end. We can review it for you and send it back with all the corrections that you would need to make, and you can send it back and forth as many times as you need. If you want to kind of get a little rundown before you start, maybe you want to craft your cover letter before, you can look at our cover letter guide, which is also on My Charger in the same section, Student Resources and then Career Development Center. That is going to give you all the information we just talked about in written form with a bunch of examples. It's going to take you step by step as well, so that's also a really great resource to use. And then finally, if you're still looking, you need some help, definitely email us. Right now, we're not going to be able to reach the phone because we're not on campus, but email us and we'll get back to you. We can try to set up an appointment, and we will definitely help you out in any way that we can. This is our kind of scheduling for our hours now that we are at home and not on campus, unfortunately. We are still open, and we have virtual open office hours, which is kind of just our typical walk-ins Monday through Friday, so every day. We have a session from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and from 2 to 4 via Zoom. So no appointment needed, just pop on and we can figure out any way that we can help. And then just to get those access codes, follow us on Instagram. We post all the access codes in there for our Zoom sessions. That way you have the information to get what you need help with, and we can help you that way. So thank you so much for listening to our cover letter guide, and I hope that was helpful. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. Thanks so much.